Today is the 1 year anniversary of the NBA postponing its season with the postponement of the Oklahoma City and Utah Jazz game last season, where Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19. Kyle, just to get your thoughts on this one, man. When this happened, when you saw the news kind of come up on your phone like the rest of us, what was your mindset? Where were you right there?
I mean, I looked at my phone and very had a very similar reaction to Mark Cuban, where it's just like, oh my god, like basically like the entire sports world just shut down like at that moment. Because if I remember back to this time last year, I remember COVID was starting to become a more well-known issue, but there wasn't a moment until this where it took it to that next level. To me, when this Jazz Thunder game got canceled and then the NBA season subsequently got postponed until I think it was like 4 or 5 months later, this was the moment where I think really like our generation in particular really, really got behind like how serious like this COVID-19 situation was. And it wasn't just the NBA either. I mean, you had the NCAA men's and women's, not just the basketball tournaments canceled. You had all of the winter sports tournaments canceled. The start of the MLB season was pushed back to July. I don't think the NHL season restarted until like 4 months after. I think they shut down their season, I think the day after the NBA. You got to remember the Olympics were supposed to take place last year in Tokyo. They were pushed back to this summer. And even this summer, people were thinking that there was a off chance that the Tokyo Olympics could be not only postponed, but canceled altogether. But it does look like that they're going to hold the Tokyo Olympics later this year. So we'll definitely see about that. And then the only league that wasn't really affected as much as some other leagues was probably the NFL, because the NFL had just finished their season before these lockdowns and these seasons were ended up being postponed. But the NFL had no preseason games this past season. And there were a lot of off-season training activities that were canceled because all of these teams had to go remote or had to go virtual with their meetings because they wouldn't allow anybody into the building to do their meetings, whether it was with their coaches or just meeting with other players. So it was, to me, it really was a moment in time where it seemed like the world was slowly grinding to a halt. I mean, I'll take that. It really seemed like a time where everything grinded to a halt, and it flipped the entire sports world upside down for at least a solid 4 to 5 months.
Dude, I'll never forget playing Call of Duty in my house, my parents' house, and I'm actually playing with my good friends. Shout out to the boys, Rick, Nick, AJ, and we're just playing, and when we all get the notification relatively at the same time, and it's just like the NBA season has been canceled. Obviously, we all got the notification that the game was postponed. Rudy tested positive, and then everybody kind of got together and they made the cumulative decision to say that the season will be canceled, or at least put on halt until further notice. And similar to what you said, we knew COVID was a thing. We knew COVID was very important in terms of it's gaining traction, it's getting worse as time has progressed. But to legitimately sit here and say we're canceling a full on sporting season or putting it on a halt, I keep saying cancel. It, it was nothing short of a shock. Obviously, I was more in awe because the Mavs finished out that game overnight and we beat the Nuggets. And for the season to pretty much come to an end right then and there after that game, to at that time we had no idea what was going to happen. We didn't know the bubble was going to exist. We didn't know what was going on, and it's almost like right after that I got sent home to go to work remote on the 16th, and it's like right after the 11th, everything proceeded to get worse. Like things were shutting down. We were in the middle of the ACC and all the major conference tournaments for college basketball, and everything came to a halt. Everything came to a cease. Fans were getting removed from other sporting stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball was just about to start. We didn't know what was happening in that aspect as well. It it was almost like a snowball effect. One thing happened and led to another, and then COVID
Mm-hmm.
progressively got worse. And we know that the country as a whole, if not the world, experienced COVID-19 in full effect. Dude, April hit and it was like, damn, or should I say March hit And then once things started getting canceled at the beginning of April, it was like cases were spiking. America was in the worst state it's ever been, in the worst country in the world. We were just, cases were just jumping all through the roof. And man, COVID came and punched this world in the face, and this whole world took a big step back once sports were pretty much put on hold because everybody was remote, everybody was kind of stranded in quarantine, and there was pretty much nothing to watch in terms of sports. So it was kind of crazy, man. It really was a scary time watching that video that ESPN posted this morning, and it was
Yep.
like a 6 minute video.
Yep.
It was goosebumps. It was almost like we were watching a nightmare or something that was in a movie, but it was actually real. And to comment further on it, I just want to give my blunt and truth and honest truth. Rudy Gobert messed this whole process up. To me, Rudy Gobert, for whatever remained in my mind, is the guy that joked about this, got sick, got his team sick, and then ruined this for the NBA. Obviously, you can't control whether or not you received the virus, but taking it as lightly as he did, coughing and touching the microphone, making the jokes, I found that to be very disrespectful. I found it to be, very uncomforting and unsoothing. As a professional athlete, we get it. You feel like you're untouchable. You're at the top of your game in your career. You're making millions of dollars to dribble a rubber ball. I get it, but you can't beat science. No matter who you are, COVID was going to affect you, and he ended up getting it, which I thought was karma. Thankfully, he was okay, but he really did ruin the relationship with his team. I'm pretty sure Donovan Mitchell didn't talk to him for about 2 months during quarantine because he got him sick, Michael Conley, and a list of other NBA players on that team, as well as across the league. You Are you kidding me? Like, you need to use your platform better to take things like this serious. And the way that he joked about it and handled that press conference still leaves me like with my feathers ruffled, because I just saw it as a guy that just didn't take anything serious. And, obviously we didn't know the significance of COVID at that very point in time. But for you to go and mock it and, after medical experts have said how serious it was, just rubbed me the wrong way. And I think that, players like that and athletes like that at that point in time were really ignorant. And I think that really pissed me off personally.
Well, I'll tell you this. You mentioned the ESPN video, that 6 minute video that they released today. I think looking back at that situation, it was at that moment where I really thought that not just the sports public, but just the general public at large really started taking COVID-19 seriously. Up until then, I don't think that was the case. Now, I'm not going to excuse what Rudy Gobert did with touching all the microphones and, joking about the whole situation with COVID. It's just before that time, though, before they ended up postponing the game and subsequently canceling the game, I just think that a lot of people had maybe heard about it, but didn't know much about it. Because if you had actually watched the entire video, there was a point where I think one of the referees was talking to Billy Donovan saying, I think, or actually I take that back. I think it was Quinn Snyder. It was the coach of the Jazz at the time. I think he said to Billy Donovan that
What is COVID-19 or something?
yeah, we believe that one of our players may have tested positive for COVID-19. And Billy Donovan had said, what's COVID-19? So I think at that point in time, those guys were so focused on what they were doing with their jobs that COVID-19 wasn't even a thought. And that's why you probably saw Rudy Gobert joking around about it, because to be quite honest with you, I don't think he even knew much about it. I don't even know if most of the team knew much about it. They may had heard about it. They maybe seen some videos on Twitter about it, but they didn't have the knowledge that we have now, or even
Of
just a
course
couple
not.
weeks after. So I'm not going to crucify Rudy Gobert for what he did. What he did was stupid in hindsight, but at the time, I just think it was a consequence of us as really a public not taking it as seriously as we did after. Because really after the whole gamut of games getting postponed and all these sporting leagues crashing to a halt, that's when, to me personally, it escalated to a point where, okay, people are really starting to take this seriously, and you got to really take into this social distancing. Everybody stay 6 feet. But up until then, I don't think that was the case.